Hi, my name is Jack Turner. This is my project on learning theory. I will be focusing on my sports journey and explaining how I have experienced positive reinforcement, operant conditioning, and the difference between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Don't worry, we will come back to these. First, I want to walk you through my football journey. This is the first picture I have of me in a football uniform. I had never played the game and had no idea what I was doing. I purely did it because my friends were doing it, and it seemed fun. This next picture is from my second year ever playing football, as a sophomore in high school. Once again, I had no idea what I was doing. However, I started to experience success, which sparked a love for football, and I began to have a desire to get better in the off-season. That spark quickly went away, though, as there was no serious weightlifting program, and the new coaches on varsity seemed like the worst. This is where I first learned about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is when you are motivated to perform an activity to earn a reward or avoid punishment. Intrinsic is when you are motivated to perform an activity for its own sake and personal rewards. Now, in the past, growing up, I'd experienced mostly intrinsic motivation. This came from the goal in the game being to have fun rather than to win. However, on this new varsity roster, the extrinsic motivation was a much bigger factor. Coaches were more intense, they expected more, and due to this, it felt like you were only trying to earn a reward rather than have fun. This reward was starting on varsity. This new extrinsic motivation motivated me to be the best football player I had been yet. I was working hard, and I earned the starting spot as a junior on the offensive line. A new position for me, however. I had been a linebacker up to this point, which you only need to be around 200 pounds to play in high school. However, the offensive line, you need to be closer to around 250 pounds to be even close to the average weight. I was sitting at 205 pounds in my junior year. Due to this, I experienced a lot of failure, and this is where I was introduced to operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is defined as specific consequences that are associated with a voluntary behavior. This can be rewards that are introduced to increase a behavior, or punishment that is introduced to decrease a behavior. During this time, I was introduced to the punishment that comes when you do a poor behavior, aka messing up in football. I was experiencing negative reinforcement from my coaches, friends, and others on the team. However, this sparked more motivation in me to be the best player I could be going into that offseason. That offseason, I worked as hard as possible to become the best player I could be. I began to experience intrinsic motivation again and experienced a love for the game that I had not felt in a long time. I was consistently in the gym or at the field with my friends getting better at football. I would remain focused on the secular goal, which was to come in, continue to start, be a team captain, lead, and experience success in the field. However, I had not thought that much about playing in college, but that soon changed going into the season. Coming into my senior season, I began to receive positive reinforcement. This is when you add a stimulus to increase or strengthen a behavior. I began to experience love for my coaches and was eventually named a team captain going into my senior year. This positive reinforcement did not stop here, however. I began playing very well going into my senior season. We had the best team that we had had in a long time, and we're looking to make a real playoff push going into that year. The positive reinforcement and the intrinsic motivation that I had in this year was unmatched. I began to feel like a freshman again. I was out there with my friends, playing the game I loved, and, on top of that, receiving positive reinforcement from coaches and now college coaches because of my good play. This sparked a real drive in me to see how far I could take this and made me pursue college football. This takes me to this past summer, where I worked harder than I have in my entire life in the weight room and on the field to make sure that I was ready for the challenge that college football brought. I was experiencing extrinsic motivation as I was looking for reward and to come in and compete for a starting spot on the Wesleyan football team. I worked incredibly hard and began to increase my lifts and become stronger and gain more weight to make sure that I was ready for this challenge. I also experienced positive reinforcement as my lifts were solid and I came into camp looking great and playing well. Thank you.